You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and we're finally getting to this story. This is a story I had several of you request that I cover back a few weeks ago while the trial was happening in Australia. And for whatever reason, maybe there were other cases or I hadn't quite put all the source material together. I just hadn't covered it just quite yet. But let's get into it now, because on Monday, Erin Patterson, the mushroom killer, was sentenced for the deaths of 3 people. Erin Trudy Patterson was born in 1974, and she grew up in southeastern Melbourne. Erin did a little bit of everything. She studied science at the University of Melbourne, but she switched to accounting to finish her schooling. She then trained as an air traffic controller. That career lasted for just a short bit, about a year and a half. And then in 2004, she decided to switch career paths again, and she began working in animal management at RSCPA Australia. At that same time, she started dating Simon Patterson. He's an engineer who also worked in the same area as Erin. So, of course, they have the same last name for this story, so clearly they end up getting married. Well, life changes again for Erin because in 2006, her grandmother dies and leaves her $2 million in inheritance money. That $2 million is paid out over 8 years, and Erin begins receiving payments in 2007. Now, Erin goes and changes career paths again when she moves to Pemberton with her new money and her new hubby. Erin starts working in a second-hand bookshop. During these years, Erin builds a bond with her in-laws, Gail and Dawn Patterson. Also, Erin gives birth to her son. Then, months later, expecting a child again, Erin and Simon move to Coonawarra, shifting their marriage geographically closer to her in-laws, Dawn and Gail. Erin said she bonded with Dawn over their continuous desire to learn new things. Erin and Simon started attending the local Baptist church with their family, and there they met Ian and Heather Wilkinson. Ian's the pastor of the church, and of course, Heather is his wife. Okay, I want to pause. Let's just cover all of these names again. I don't want us to get lost here. We have Erin and Simon and their 2 kids, Simon's parents, Dawn and Gail, and then the pastor and his wife, Ian and Heather. They're also related to Dawn and Gail. So we got all those players, and everyone just seems to be hitting it off, or so it seems, because in the quiet times, Erin and Simon are struggling. Money seems to be an issue, as it often is, and with that additional inheritance from the death of Erin's parents, okay, remember, she got grandma's inheritance, and now her and her sister are getting their parents' inheritance. Well, Erin seems to be supplying a lot of help financially to Simon's family. The strained couple had given interest-free loans to Simon's 3 siblings. Well, following the birth of their first child, Simon and Erin, they separated for a bit, kind of like a trial run to see if divorce was something they wanted. They eventually got back together, and then they split up again. And then they got back together, and then they were apart, and finally in 2015, they called it quits for good. But they remained friendly, co-parenting their 2 children, spending holidays together occasionally, and they had even vacationed together since the divorce. Well, that coziness imploded in 2022, when money again became an issue. See, back then, Simon filed a tax return in Australia, and with however he listed his finances and his filing status, it made Erin ineligible for government child support payments. It seems Simon might have done this knowingly because he also instructed a federal agency to stop paying his children's school fees and medical bills. For his part, Simon claimed it was a mistake by his accountant, but Erin, she felt like it was purposeful. Also in those years, around 2022, Simon got sick. Now, this part is all alleged, but in a 10-month span, Simon was hospitalized 3 times with gastrointestinal symptoms. One of the hospital stays was so severe that Simon slipped into a coma and had to have life-saving surgery to bring him back from the edge of death. One medical report found that Simon could have ingested rat poison. And like I said, it's all alleged. But Simon got sick and he definitely suffered. All of that brings us to July of 2023. It's been about 10 months since Simon was last hospitalized, and we have some, not so awesome feelings between Erin and her once friendly in-laws, Dawn and Gail. And Erin is becoming more and more scarce at the usually shared holidays and family events. Well, because of the strained relationships and the missed family events, Erin supposedly gets a late invitation to Gail's 70th birthday party, and she feels snubbed. You don't make a girl mad because you risk her spilling the family tea. Erin goes on and makes several social media posts criticizing her estranged husband and her in-laws. Allegedly, to smooth everything out, Erin invites Simon, Dawn and Gail, and Heather and Ian to lunch. She plans on serving beef Wellington and getting the gang back together, and for the guests, maybe she's extending an olive branch, or maybe she's hatching a plan, because instead of an olive branch, Erin extended death cap mushrooms, and people died. At the lunch were 70-year-old Gail, 70-year-old Dawn, 66-year-old Heather, and 69-year-old Ian. Now, Simon had bailed, saying he couldn't be there, and the two kids, they went to the movies. Everyone who was at the lunch date ate the beef Wellington, and then they went home. But by the next afternoon, all the guests were in the hospital with stomach pains and diarrhea. Erin said she was sick too, but she didn't want to be admitted to the hospital. Gail and Dawn and Ian and Heather, well, they didn't refuse admittance. They were in massive pain, and the common thread here is the beef Wellington. Police followed Erin home. They wanted to check on the kids who could have eaten the leftovers. When they found out the kids had eaten the meal, the police insisted the kids get checked out also. But Erin drug her feet. The authorities demanded that the kids be seen by a physician. And during that checkup, the authorities learned that the kids hadn't had any of the mushrooms on their beef Wellington. So they seem to be all good. But the other guests are not good. 5 days after the lunch at Erin's, Gail and Heather died in the hospital. Don was fighting for his life, and despite an emergency liver transplant, he died in the hospital days later. Ian was hospitalized for 7 weeks, but he eventually recovered from the poisoning. Detectives were looking into the poisoning from the very beginning. Too much was pointing at these severe illnesses being intentional. When the police searched the home, they recovered beef Wellington leftovers in the garbage, or if you're in Australia, apparently they call it the bin. They tested those leftovers and found the food to be laced with death cap toxins. But here's the deal. Erin admitted she bought those poisonous mushrooms. She said she had visited an Asian supermarket in Mount Waverly, and she had purchased the mushrooms and dried them 3 months before the lunch date. She didn't initially admit to owning a food dehydrator, though. While the investigation was being conducted, Erin snuck away and threw her food dehydrator in what we in America would call a dumpster. When police asked her about the disposal of the food dehydrator, she said she threw it away in a moment of panic because people were blaming her for the poisonings. Erin did a few more shady things, though, besides throwing away that appliance. She factory reset her phone 3 times over 4 days. She reset her phone once on August 2nd. Okay, that was 3 days after the lunch. Then she reset the phone again on August 5th, 1 day after Gail and Heather died, and then again on the 6th, 1 day after Dawn died. Erin was arrested in November of 2023, 2 months after the fatal lunch date. While awaiting trial, she was held in the women's maximum security prison, and Erin pled not guilty. But she did something interesting here. She asked for our version of a speedy trial, which in Australia, I guess means you skip the magistrate court committal hearing and you head straight to what we would call a trial in America. Some back and forth occurred with Erin's charges. She initially was charged with the 3 deaths and the attempted death from the dinner party guests. And she was also charged with attempted murder for the rat poisoning of Simon. Those rat poisoning charges were later dropped, and she went to trial in April of this year for the 3 murder charges and the attempted murder charge. The trial lasted 9 weeks, where the Crown, or what we call the prosecution, well, in their opening statements, they referenced that food dehydrator and Erin lying about it. The Crown shown the court the Facebook post that Erin had made about dehydrating the mushrooms. The Crown said Erin ate a differently prepared beef Wellington and said that before Heather died, Heather mentioned that Erin's meal was served on a different colored dinner plate than the other guests' meals, implying that Erin wouldn't screw up who got what plate if her plate was a different color than the guests' plates. The Crown said Erin had lied about her own previous illness, using that illness as a ruse to get the guests to join her for lunch, and that she also lied about her illness from the supposedly ingested poisoned beef Wellington. The Crown said she was faking her stomach ailment following the lunch date. When the defense attorney made his case to the jury, he said those mushrooms were poisonous, but he claimed Erin had no intention of killing anyone. It was just an unfortunate mistake. Now, one electrifying moment in the trial was when Simon took the stand. Simon testified to the tumultuous marriage, the money issues, and the separations, and the kid issues. He testified that on the day of the lunch date, when he declined the invitation, he said Erin pressured him to attend anyway. Simon said Erin had sent him many, quote, extremely aggressive messages. Those came in the months leading up to the murders. He said she was very upset over the child support payments. He then said after the lunch date that Erin had never reached out to him to ask about the well-being of his parents who were dying in the hospital. The defense attorney tried to get Simon to admit to having conversations with Erin in those few days following the lunch date, maybe trying to establish that they were actually better friends than how Simon was saying they were. But Simon adamantly denied even speaking with Erin about the dehydrator or the welfare of those in the hospital. Then Ian, remember he's the pastor who survived the poisoning, he took the stand. He testified that during that lunch date, Erin turned down all offers of help in the kitchen, telling her guests she would serve them. He also corroborated that Erin had eaten from a different colored plate than everyone else. Right, there was lots of testimony that was given about the toxicology of the mushrooms, also some technical testimony, but to sum it all up, these mushrooms were specific mushrooms that Erin had to search out and travel to get. Erin did testify at her trial. She told the jury that she struggled throughout her marriage. She had suffered postpartum depression and psychological trauma over her weight gain. She admitted that she kind of had a thing for foraging mushrooms and that she had taken pictures of mushrooms and searched out death cap mushrooms on her digital devices. She said she knew she had cooked with them on the day of the lunch date, but she did not intend to use that many mushrooms. She said she was doing a mixture of mushrooms and ended up just accidentally mixing up the dried mushroom containers, which then led to her using too many of the death cap mushrooms. She told jurors she had lied about being ill with cancer. That was part of a pretext to get everyone together for lunch. She said she didn't have cancer, and she was using that made-up diagnosis to cover for the fact that she planned on getting gastric bypass surgery for her weight problem. So she was just embarrassed, and she lied about the cancer to cover that up. She also said the reason she didn't get sick like the others was because she had thrown up immediately after everyone had left the lunch date. She told jurors she absolutely didn't use a different colored plate that day. She also said she made 6 individual beef Wellingtons because she couldn't find a cut of beef that could make one large beef Wellington that could be portioned out. Now, when the trial came to a close, the Crown said all of this was premeditated, that Erin had planned and purchased death cap mushrooms. She had bought a dehydrator specifically to dry the mushrooms to be used later, that Erin had manufactured a lie to get the guests to the lunch date, and that she had cooked the meal with specific portions to murder or harm her guests. Her defense said there was zero premeditation. that Erin had gotten sick also from that lunch date, and that this was just a nervous and anxious woman who had mixed up the mushrooms and then panicked when people got sick. Well, after deliberations, Erin was found guilty on all 4 counts, 2 years and 1 day after the beef Wellington lunch. Last week, Erin was sentenced for her crimes, and while the judge read that she would be imprisoned for life, Erin barely blinked at the news of her fate. There were no tears, no emotion. The 50-year-old was stone-faced during the hearing. The judge did give her some grace, though, allowing Erin to apply for parole after 33 years of prison time served. Erin would be 83 years old if that parole was granted after 33 years. As the judge spoke for more than 45 minutes, kind of explaining why the sentence was given, the stone-faced Erin leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes, leaving some observers to wonder if she had actually fallen asleep. Erin will spend her minimum of 33 years in a maximum security cell, much like death row in America. She will be locked down for 23 hours a day and have limited access to a small courtyard. The judge did say Erin's lockdown accommodations may change later on, but for now, she will be in maximum security. Erin has 28 days to appeal the decision. Erin has also plowed through all of that inheritance money, which means she will now have to convince a taxpayer-funded lawyer to take her case. We want to hear from you down under Rise and Crime family. What was this case like there? Do you think justice was served? How did the public react? Let us know in the comments. All right, Rise and Crime listeners, do you remember the case I brought you last month? The Amish mother, 40-year-old Ruth Miller, who had been accused of throwing her 4-year-old son off a dock because God commanded her to? Well, we now have body cam footage from that day, and I'm going to play some of it for you, but first, let's establish the background. This all happened on the weekend of August 23rd, when park rangers were called to Atwood Lake in Ohio. Atwood Lake is an area of Ohio where a sizable Amish population is located. At 10:39 that morning, witnesses had called 911, reporting that a golf cart driven by Ruth and carrying Ruth's 18-year-old twin sons and 15-year-old daughter had careened over a short rock wall and into the water. The 3 teen children had scrambled together to the shore, and witnesses were helping Ruth to the shore as well. Now, we don't have body cam of the initial scene because I'm guessing park rangers presumably are not outfitted with cameras. But when law enforcement arrives on scene, we get an idea via the footage of Ruth's mental state. Now remember, her husband is unaccounted for, and she is openly saying she threw her 4-year-old child in the lake. Here, I want you to just give it a listen to the first portion of Ruth's encounter with law enforcement. We're going to pick up this video where Ruth is being escorted by her 2 adult sons, those twins, and they're walking toward law enforcement so that Ruth can answer questions about the unfolding scene.
I gave him to God.
You gave him to God.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God. And people are going to tell me I am crazy, but he is real and he loves you. He really does love you. He loves you. And I doubted him. I doubted him so many times, but I am to tell you he is coming soon. He is coming very soon. Prepare your hearts. The end is close. And I'm for sure supposed to tell you that he does love you. Okay?
Ma'am, can you explain to me what happened? Who'd you throw in the water?
I gave my son to God.
Your son?
Yes.
Where's your husband?
He went for a walk this morning.
And you haven't seen him
He
since?
may never come back. And we went to the boat and his clothes were there. And God told me he's in the lake and a fish swallowed. And you're actually supposed to go look for him in the bottom of the lake. And you will find the fish. And you will find my husband. And then you will believe. But ye of your little faith that did not believe before see.
Okay.
So send people down to the bottom of the lake. looking for a fish.
How old's your son that's in the lake?
4. He's sweet. I love that you.
Ruth is eerily calm. She's not really wet, so I think it's been a few minutes since she was in the water. And Ruth's being treated almost as if she is kind of like a ticking time bomb. They're being very soft and gentle with their treatment, which I totally understand, by the way. During all of this, her sons begin to pace almost nervously in some like circular patterns. They're several feet behind their mother, and the teen daughter is in a squad car several yards away from the scene. For those listening on podcast and not watching on YouTube, Ruth places her hand on the kind of shoulder chest area of one of the officers when she says she is told by God to especially talk with him. Then a few minutes later, we hear this from another responding officer.
I'm showing you back some.
What? I need to know where your husband's at.
He's at the bottom of the lake in a fish.
He's in a fish. There's no fish large enough on an that one to swallow your husband.
He's at the bottom of the lake.
Fish. Okay.
I thought your husband went for a walk.
Yeah, and then we came to the boat, and his clothes were laying in the boat.
Okay.
Tan
Yeah.
pants and cream shirt and flip-flops.
You have a cell phone?
It's in the blooper.
It's in the camper. Where's your camper at?
I think it's,
Area 3?
I think so. Yeah. It's like a Amish camper.
It's a tannish camper. You don't know what lot number it is?
No.
Well, we really need to verify your husband's still with us.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Well, he's actually just go out in the bottom of the lake.
Well, I can't go in the bottom of the lake. So we need,
Scuba dive.
yeah, we're going to have to call divers in to go to the
Okay.
bottom of the lake.
Please do.
And you're saying
The best ones there are. Because this is a miracle from God. You will see. You will see.
you're saying your 4-year-old son's down there too?
He's with God.
Where's his body at?
I don't
Where
know.
did you throw him in the water at?
Off of the dock at the causeway.
Where the bike was today? Where the boat was?
Yeah, where the boat.
Okay.
Thanks.
We're, right now, we're going to walk up to the squad, okay? That's what we're
Okay.
going to do. We're going to put you in the back of the squad.
You will find my husband.
Okay, but you're going to sit down in the back of the squad for us, okay?
Can I actually just sit with my children? Yeah. And have water?
Yeah, we can bring your children over.
I would love it. Look for water.
Let's go up in this squad over here.
My children out here.
Well, we'll bring them over.
Bring 'em
in a
over.
minute. Let me go check you out.
Come on. Yeah, we're gonna get it. Kyle wants to go get you one. Okay. Yeah, but I don't want to do
For me, this is the first time where we see the frustration mounting in the responding officer's voice. He's covering it up, though. It's barely there, but you can see he's kind of starting to lose it. Now, at this point, a female paramedic leads Ruth toward a squad car. But Ruth is insistent that they take a little pause, a little detour. Ruth insists on kneeling on the paved parking lot and praying with the paramedic. Ruth holds one of her hands and places her other hand on the paramedic's back. While other officers are assembling the responding dive team and dispatching searchers to potential recovery areas, Ruth is calmly placed in a squad car and then taken to the police station. According to Sheriff Campbell, Ruth explained that she and her husband, 45-year-old Marcus Miller, had been, for several hours and possibly days, experiencing spiritual instruction, and that during the night they had gone to one of the docks without any of their children. While on that dock, they performed tasks that they believed God was requiring of them, kind of like swimming tasks in the water, things that would be very difficult. After they both failed many of the tasks and experienced perceived guilt over this, Marcus returned to the dock alone at 6:30 that morning. It is believed Marcus then tried to swim to a sandbar and died in the water. Investigators then say that later that morning, somewhere around 8 o'clock-ish, Ruth took her 4-year-old son, Vincent, to the dock and put him into the water. She then returned and got her 3 older children, took them to the dock, and for about 2 hours, she forced them to pray for their father and brother. After the praying, she loaded her teenage children into the golf cart and erratically drove them into the water after hitting that rock wall. Now remember, we're getting all of this from the sheriff. Later that night, divers found Vincent's body, and the next morning, divers found Marcus's body about 50 yards away from Vincent. Source material states that the older children are with family and safe, and the Old Order Amish Church did release a statement calling this deadly episode a tragedy stemming from mental illness and not from church teachings. Ruth has been charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of domestic violence, and 1 count of child endangerment. Those last 3 counts are, I believe, for dumping her older children in the lake. The domestic violence is for the 2 adult kids, and then the child endangerment is for the 15-year-old daughter. Ruth did spend some time in a secure mental treatment facility, but she has since been transferred to the county jail. She has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Her attorney told People magazine that he is confident that he can prove Ruth was suffering from severe mental ailment. Ruth's bond hearing is in about a week. I'll let you know when more information is available. It's just a sad, sad story. I hope those kids, the surviving kids, are going to be okay. And the sad stories continue because I have another one out of Illinois. The heartache occurred on July 21st, but news of this sadness broke when charges were filed last week. We hadn't really heard about it. In this case, 14-year-old Emma Schultes is the only child and daughter of David and Amanda Schultes, and they live in the littlest of Midwest towns called Prairie du Rocher. I hope I'm saying that right. Apparently, that town name means rock prairie in French, and I don't speak French. And this small town has just over 500 residents. It also flanks the east side of the Mississippi River. Now, the town is so small that only one school educates grades K through 8, and then for high school, kids have to travel to a neighboring town to attend and complete their education. If you travel 50 miles north and across the Mississippi River, you reach the outskirts of St. Louis. But this place is country and nothing at all like St. Louis. Well, on that Monday back in July, 34-year-old David and his daughter Emma were at a home in Waterloo, Illinois. Okay, we don't know why they're there. That hasn't been revealed yet. But Waterloo is about 20 minutes north of Prairie du Rocher, and it's also in Monroe County. At 1:30-ish that day, a 911 call was placed requesting help with a young girl who had suffered a gunshot wound. When EMS arrived, they found Emma lying outside the building, gravely injured. Emma was rushed to a St. Louis hospital where she died from the single bullet wound. Here's the weird part. Police initially did not find a firearm at the scene, and it took some time for them to piece together what had happened because not everyone involved was being all that cooperative. In the end, Monroe County Sheriff's Office discovered that a buzzard, like a bird, had flown into a brick building on the property. Now David, trying to kill the bird, stood outside of the building but aimed the gun inside the building at the bird. Okay, so follow me here. He's standing in a doorway, but most of his body is outside of the building being shielded. Just his arm is inside the building when he fires the shot. Like he's trying to prevent his body from any ricocheting caused by the projectile, harming him. David is a good shot, apparently. He fired the bullet and it passed through the buzzard. However, the bullet then passed through a window and pierced Emma, who was also standing outside of the building. From here, Monroe County knew they didn't have a suicide on their hands, but they weren't quite sure what had happened. The Illinois State Crime Scene Unit was called into the case, and after a month-long investigation, we know maybe a little bit more. Emma's dad, David, has been charged with 1 felony count of reckless discharge of a firearm. But we have another player at this scene, 58-year-old Karen Schwartz, and she has been charged with concealment of a homicidal death and obstructing justice. Those charges stemmed from Karen allegedly hiding the .40 caliber pistol used in the shooting. Karen also allegedly pressured others, possibly David, We don't know, but she pressured others to not speak to law enforcement. Reckless discharge of a firearm could land David in prison for 1 to 3 years if this goes to trial and he is found guilty. And Karen's charges are a little bit more complicated. She could serve up to 2 to 5 years. That's more than David because her charges are a Class 3 felony and David's are a Class 4 felony. Okay, I think we might have a little bit more to learn about this case and Karen's behavior following Emma's death. One thing I can't find, I don't even know how these two are connected. I don't know how Karen and David and Emma all know each other and why David and Emma were even at this area. And does the area belong to Karen? Is it like her home and there's an outbuilding there? None of that has been released yet. Now, David has surrendered and has also been released pending upcoming court dates. Karen is scheduling her surrender with authorities. Emma died 6 days before her 15th birthday. She was a farm girl involved in FFA, 4-H club, and also could be found showing her livestock at local competitions and fairs. In fact, she had recently won a competition at a fair just days before her death. The sheriff's office called the death profoundly devastating. I can't even imagine what this is like for her parents. If anything is released about Karen, I will let you know in an upcoming podcast. Now to comments from Monday's episode. You true crime followers do not like Wendy Adelson. That's the woman who has not been charged in her husband's death, but her mother and brother and their accomplices are spending life in prison or significant prison time for Daniel's murder. Now, everyone who commented on this case wants Wendy to go to trial. Rachel was appalled that Wendy would not take the children to their father's funeral. I get it. I totally get it. But I think there was lots to be appalled about in this case. And to the other case that I covered, the one about the senior at the University of Kentucky who was on the stunt team and she's accused of giving birth and hiding the deceased baby in the closet. Adrian cannot believe this girl was able to give birth quietly. Well, the roommates were suspicious for a reason. That's why they waited for her to leave and then they went and searched through Lauren's things and found the dead baby. We might learn later when the arrest affidavit is revealed that maybe Lauren was making noises in her room, or maybe she really just is hardcore like you wondered, Adrian. And finally, I had a listener be upset that I used Fox News as a source for a story. All right, here's the deal. Almost always in breaking crime news, the best source material is from a local affiliate or a local newspaper or a local online publication. Did you hear that part? All of them are local. I specifically search out local sources. The Fox News source I used was a local affiliate. This wasn't political. It was a reporter on the ground doing their job close to the crime. Victims deserve better than us being divided over their pain like this. I'm just saying. All right, that's your Thursday episode of Rise in Crime. Thank you for being here. Please share this episode with a friend. Oh, I should also say thank you to everybody who congratulated me on 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's great. I love it. There's a really good thing about the show growing at the speed that it's growing. It's because when it grows at that speed, you guys are the most loyal listeners. And that's what I want here. I want this to be our community. So thank you for the congratulations. I really appreciate it. Please do all those things I mentioned. Go to all of our Ono Media podcasts, like, follow, subscribe, comment. 5-star reviews are amazing. All of those things help the podcast grow. And of course, share it like I mentioned. The 3 podcasts with Ono Media are Murder with My Husband, Into the Dark, and Rise in Crime. You can join me again on Monday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.